Feeling like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond in the shrimp tank.
Hey everyone, I'm Mark Scribner, your co-host of the Shrimp Tank Boston, here with my co-host Mike Keel, who's actually residing in Sarasota today. I'd like to remind everybody this show is featuring some of the most prominent entrepreneurs, founders, business owners in and around New England and across the country. We are nationally syndicated through iHeartRadio. We can download any of our shows, this show, past shows on iHeart, Google, Apple, anywhere you want to download your podcasts. We are now, I think, somewhere in excess of 1,200 shows in the bank right now. And what I would like to do in just a brief moment, we're going to bring on a good friend of ours. Her name is Kat Donatello from Austin & Kat. She's the CEO and founder of an amazing cannabis pet company that's morphed into all kinds of things. And I've known her for probably 15 years, and this business started out of her kitchen table in Maine. So it's a great story about starting a business and basically fulfilling your dreams. So again, we're going to bring her on in a minute. But Micah, how's everything going today? You doing well?
Doing good. Each week, Mark, we're visiting with entrepreneurs and we're seeing really two different things happen. We're seeing some that are saying things have really just taken off. And then we're seeing others that are just saying, I don't know if I'm going to be able to survive this. And then I'm also hearing, it seems like people are saying, look, if I can make it through this, I'll be able to make it through anything. Kat, that's what are your thoughts? I mean, you're in the trenches. What are you experiencing?
I'm experiencing all of those things, honestly. But I think with the industry that I'm in, being the pet industry, we were somewhat fortunate because pet was immediately deemed essential. So as you saw stores like Sephora and the malls closing, pet stores remained open. The only problem was people were rushing in only to buy pet food. They weren't really thinking about supplements. So we did see a massive decrease in revenue in the month of April. And it allowed us to kind of sit back. I mean, we're based in Seattle, Washington. So we were at the very beginning stages of COVID. But it allowed us to sit back and really look at the company as a whole and what we wanted to do. Were we spending too much money? Were we being wasteful? Where could we tighten our belt and do something really great and take care of our customers? And I was telling you guys earlier, in June, we've had our best month to date. So we really tightened it up, came up with some great plans, really reconnected with our customers who are our retailers and then our end consumers. And I think that just gave us an opportunity that we wouldn't have had or wouldn't have forced to have had COVID not happened.
Yeah, that's a good point. And Micah, to your point, I mean, some of these businesses actually survive. I mean, I hate that the restaurant industry, has been unduly affected to a dramatic degree. And in most cases in that particular business, they sometimes their margins are low. They only have a couple months of income, but there's a lot of them. And maybe in some cases, I wouldn't say this is a blessing by any means, but we're talking about business here. And in business, this is going to be in the textbooks of all the major universities and business schools that are out there learning how to do this. But, maybe some of these businesses shouldn't have survived. They were just kind of hiding, just like in the stock market, right? If the market goes up, it makes everybody look brilliant. The mistakes are hidden. But maybe this is putting the spotlight on companies that just aren't being run the right way or well enough.
Yeah, that's a good point, Mark. But Kat, what were some of the things that you had to kind of transition and do differently than what you were doing, before COVID-19?
Yeah, that's a perfectly good question. I think one of the first things we had to do as a company was sit down as a management team and decide what were the 3 or 4 most important things that we needed to do to survive. And one of them was we wanted to keep our employees employed. We didn't want to lay anybody off. We wanted to make sure that they were healthy and that they stayed sane. And that we reconnected, like I said, with our consumers and our customers. So we divided our company into 3 different buckets. So we had an operations bucket, a sales bucket, and then a marketing bucket. And we played a game. I don't know if you guys have ever played the great game of business, but we actually played that on a weekly basis. And then every Friday we got together and shared what we had accomplished. And we got really creative. I mean, we weren't selling. I mean, we'll be honest, we were not selling. So what we did as a sales team is we picked up the phones and we did well check-ins with every single one of our stores. We sell them to over 1,000 retailers nationwide, and they got a phone call.
Wow.
Just how are you doing? How are you approaching COVID? Are you doing, curbside check-ins? Are you only selling online? We wanted to learn about their business. We didn't care about, I mean, yes, of course, we cared about selling, but we wanted to make sure that they were healthy and that they were doing okay. And that really allowed us to connect and learn more about how different areas of the country were handling the situation.
So that's valuable right there. I mean, I hear you leaned into marketing, you leaned into customer care, you doubled up on that, and maybe COVID again put the attention on that having to do. So that's a valuable lesson. I wanted to, and I apologize for interrupting you, but I wanted to stop, or our listeners are being teased right now. I know about your company, but tell us what Austin and Kat is. You're the CEO, founder. You started this company 2014 from your kitchen table, but let's keep the suspense ending now, and let's hear about what Austin and Kat does.
Yeah, so back in 2014, I was at one of our typical Ironman events, Mark. I was at Ironman Arizona. My now husband, Tim Moxie, who is the founder of Noon, also the founder of Blue 70 Wetsuits, was at a cannabis conference. So he had left Noon, left Blue 70, and started a cannabis company in Washington State. He was at this cannabis conference and called me up on the phone and said, "Oh my gosh, everyone's talking about this cannabidiol, this CBD stuff, and I think you could help your dog." And I had at the time an aging dog who was, suffering like 12-year-old dogs do, named Brady, by the way, named after Tom Brady. And he said, "I think this can help Brady, and let's figure out how to get some, and you could try it out for him." I was leading a super holistic life, doing Ironman triathlon, eating very healthy, taking very good care of my own body, not filling it up with pharmaceuticals, but treating it as naturally as I could. And it only made sense to me at that time to not feed my dog pharmaceuticals, right? Not pop pills to make him feel better. And I knew at that time when Tim was talking to me about this, that there had to be an all natural way that I could help him. So kind of fast forward to getting this CBD, Tim had experience in incorporating a cannabis product into an edible format. So we kind of had a jump start on that. And I just started baking and playing around in the kitchen. And it was a lot of burnt recipes, a lot of different iterations, but finally settled on a recipe that still exists today. It's our classic line of treats. And, thought I would sell it maybe at farmers markets or sell it to my friends. Really never in a million years thought it would turn into the company it is today. I mean, we're one of the top 5 pet CBD brands nationwide with distribution. But it was a slow process. So for about the first 2 years, it was Kat and Austin is my dog. He's a black lab. And it just kind of, I learned every part of the company where I was launching it on a direct to consumer basis. So having a website, learning how to do shipping to consumers, learning how to, bake at scale, getting a bakery, all of those things that, when you don't realize all of the little pieces that, come along when you're starting a company, but there were a lot. I mean, for the first 2 years, I was doing all the packaging. And when I say packaging, that meant putting the cookies in the bag and sealing them and then shipping them off to customers.
Everything.
It was everything. And I loved every moment of it because the feedback that I was getting from the customers that were purchasing our products online were amazing. And kind of looking back at my triathlon days, Mark, I was a race director, as you know, for over 10 years. And one of the things that was the most rewarding for me as a race director was for someone to come up to me and say, "I just did my first triathlon. Thank you. It changed my life." And with Austin and Kat, we have consumers coming to us and saying, "Thank you. You changed my pet's life." Yeah. And in doing that, what I think people don't realize is if you can change a pet's life, right? Make them happier, healthier, and calmer, that goes over to the family. Absolutely. And you've got a happy, healthy family then. So it's just been amazing.
Well, I'm sorry, Mark. Go ahead, bud.
Oh, just real quickly. I mean, Kat, I view you as a serial entrepreneur. When back in the days when, you ran a very successful regional race, you marketed very differently than your competitors. So have you kind of always had that entrepreneurial bug? Because, you know, you seem to get the audience really quickly. And, you know, you've been a business owner multiple times in different industries and stuff, but do you view yourself as a serial entrepreneur?
I didn't think so, but I've always got something, you know, brewing in the back of my mind. And I think when Tim and I got together, it just became this like, you know, this huge thing, like, what can we do next? How can we do this? And, you know, Tim stayed with the cannabis company called Botanica. It's got a variety of brands sold nationwide in the legal cannabis market. He stayed with them until about November of last year and then made the transition over. So he's now full-time at Austin and Cat. He's my COO. And him and I working together on a daily basis is amazing. You know, we've got that opportunity where, I mean, it's a blessing and a curse, right? 11 o'clock at night, you're poking the person next to you going, right? But that's something that, I mean, we're entrepreneurs and it's in our blood to want to do that and always think about something. I mean, I look back at how I was as a kid and, you know, I had a newspaper route, probably one of the only girls at, you know, 11 years old was pulling around a wagon doing newspapers, and I sold magazines. I always wanted to do something to take care of myself. And this has just been a natural kind of progression to creating Austin and Cat and to creating a really cool company. I mean, I think we're doing some fantastic things. We've brought on recently a scientist that was previously with the Mayo Clinic. So he's doing all of our formulations now. And I mean, we're just kind of taking it to the next level. CBD is awesome, but CBD with all of these other herbs and botanicals that you can add just amplifies the benefit to the pet and in people's case also.
Mm.
Yeah, I love that. Kat, one of the things you mentioned was how you had an intricate role in all of the things from the very beginning, whether it was, you know, baking it yourself and putting it in the packaging and shipping it. Do you think the company would have the character to have it if you didn't do it that way? Or if what are your thoughts?
No way. I mean, to this day, so we moved everything to a 3PL, third-party logistics, to do all of our shipping. It lasted like 2 months. I couldn't do it. They could not curate a package. Unboxing experiences are very important for my consumers. If they're going to spend, you know, $50 on a bag of dog treats, that it should reflect that. So we do handwritten cards to this day. I mean, we've got hundreds upon hundreds of packages going out every day. And my team's, you know, writing a card. We know the dogs' names. We know when their birthdays are. That's who the brand is. I care. Like, we had a customer yesterday show up at our offices because her package is due to arrive later this week, but her dog's on hospice. And she called us and was like, "Can I come to the office?" We're like, "Yes, please come to the office." And it, you know, when you get to do those kinds of things and have those personal connections with your customer, with your end customer, right? It just makes you realize what you're doing is really worthwhile.
Well, that's the value of any company. I mean, it's those relationships. I mean, products can come and go, but you know, if you have stickiness of a client or a relationship, I mean, that personal touch is lost in this day and age. I mean, not a lot of people write handwritten notes for anything. It's all become digitized and sterile and all that. Now, you know, I was curious about the space that you're in, because in New England, it seems like every corner wants to have like a you know, legalized cannabis spot, and you know, there's a lot of money chasing that. But back in 2014, like, you were way ahead of that curve. And like, did you have you know, regulations and things that you had to overcome to get into this place? Because you know, in some areas of the country, it's not accepted, or there's lots of regulations. There's extra tax that's being lopped onto different entities. So I was curious, like, what challenges you had in the beginning with trying to get this formulated and out to the major markets, if there were any obstacles.
There were lots of obstacles, and there still are obstacles. Being that we're CBD, we don't play in the legal cannabis space. So we sell in independent pet retail. So you could go to your mom and pop's pet store, brick and mortar pet store, and purchase our products. But in 2014, as I was starting the company, and I really launched it in 16, it was about a 2-year process to really create what I wanted. In 2016, I was like all gung-ho. We launched November 1st online. And then in December, the DEA came down and said, nope, CBD illegal. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, I just launched this company. You know, so there were some moments where I was like, I don't know if this is gonna survive. But then in 2000 what was it, the dates all get confusing, but CBD was legalized through the Farm Bill. And there's been a number of farm bills, and every state has different regulations. So we may register a product a different way in a different state and, you know, go through this hoop and that hoop. But our biggest challenges, frankly, are advertising through social media, Facebook, all of that kind of stuff, Google. And you're starting to see companies like Charlotte's Web advertising on those platforms, but they've got the big dollars. I don't have $300,000 a month to throw into advertising on Google, right? So that's been a big challenge. And then our second biggest challenge has always been banking and credit card processing. So there's been, you know, I'm constantly, and I have a background in banking from, you know, millions of years ago. So I've always stayed, even though I have a CFO, stayed at the, you know, forefront of making sure that we've always are on top of things, or always knowing what's the pulse on, you know, the credit card industry, because that, you know, you lose your credit card processing, your website's done. Right. And that's right now about 30% of my business.
So you've had regulations, because I know that's being not federally approved, that some banks and some of the credit card processors just won't touch even the CBD space because of whatever view they have. But is that still the case for you? I mean, there are banks out there that you can interact with and have?
We have a great relationship with our bank right now, and our account manager. We talk with him probably on a weekly basis, just to, like I said, stay ahead of the game, know what the pulse is, always having a backup ready to go. We were very fortunate. We run a very transparent company, right? I want to be honest. I don't want to sugarcoat anything. I don't want to hide anything. So I've been very transparent from the beginning. And I think that that's helped me. Shopify, for example, which is where our website was hosted, we are a pre-approved Shopify Plus CBD merchant. That wasn't an easy process. I mean, that was some pretty heavy vetting. We are also a pre-approved CBD merchant with Square before it became available to everyone. Now it is, but that process, there was a huge vetting process. So I think just being always kind of like in the know, like I can't just make cookies and go out and sell them, right? I need to know everything, like we talked about, having my pulse on all parts of that. And it's one of the reasons why I stepped back from that 3PL, that I needed to have a pulse on what was going on.
Yeah, that's really good feedback. I think that is what we are seeing is the business owners, entrepreneurs that had a good customer base. They've really dug in and kept that customer base and just nurtured those relationships, continued to build those relationships, and they're able to, you know, not everyone is experiencing record months, but they are certainly able to kind of keep their head above water and keep business coming in.
And you know, I think one of the things that we as a company did when we were having some of these credit card issues, we were still able to process. And we also have a subscription model. I recommend subscription models for anybody who's starting an online business. It's a great way to cultivate relationships. If you get that customer past that second, third purchase, they're a lifetime customer if you're doing a good job. But we lost our credit card processing for our subscription only. And you know, we had quite a few subscription customers, and I made the decision that we were going to ship them their products for free. Like, I'm going to bite the bullet. These are my absolute best customers. Why should they suffer because my credit card isn't working?
Yeah, and maybe you're early adopter, right?
And I've got customers for life now, and I didn't do it to keep customers for life. I did it because I didn't want their dogs to not get the product that was helping their dog, right? But in turn, it kind of gave full circle, and they are customers for life now.
Yeah, and I'm not paid in equity. That's invaluable for sure. Now, so so take us to kind of where you are now. We've had some interesting conversations in the past, but Austin and Kat's growing leaps and bounds, unbelievable quarter, and maybe that DEA thing in the early on was preparation for COVID. I don't know. But so now you're in like 1,000 some odd retail stores, and without giving away the secret sauce or the formula, what are some of the things that you find as a challenge? Do you have kind of hold your nose when you're looking for investors, or it seems like it's a capital intensive business, right?
Yeah, for sure. It's funny, Mark, we talked about Austin and Kat raising money back, I believe it was in the fall when I had a conversation, and I was just getting ready to do my first fundraise in February. And then COVID happened. And so who can raise money during a pandemic? Not me. And so that was, we decided that, like I said, we tighten the bootstraps. Where can we cut costs? Where is wasteful spending? We had a pretty big burn at the time. How can we make the company survive through this? And having said that, I now still own 100% of my company. I'll be giving some equity to a good chunk, a nice portion of to the staff that have been with us for a long time. And I think that's really important. I want them all to be owners, and they all feel very valued that they were able to keep their jobs. They're very integral in making this company a success. So why not give them some ownership? But I didn't raise money during COVID, and I didn't give any of my company away. So yeah, that's been kind of an interesting, but like we were talking earlier, April was horrible. April was a very, very scary month. Our revenue just, tanked. It was horrible.
I'd like to just quickly remind our listeners that you can download this show at theshrimptank.com/Boston. And we are the Shrimp Tank, not the Shark Tank. And you mentioned something about giving away equity. Now, Mr. Wonderful in the actual show, that's what he's always looking for, is equity, right? Equity at all costs. I'll give you the money, but I want 51% of the company. So again, maybe another blessing that this COVID thing, you had to learn to adapt, because still owning 100% of your company, maybe you'll have to get capital someday, but I think you're gonna maybe look at that a little differently than you did before COVID. Is that true?
Absolutely. We are talking to a few individuals on, investing, and I'm going to be very, very picky on who I work with. I need to make sure it's the right partner, that we have the same vision, that we're rowing in the same direction, all of those analogies. But I think having the right partner can maybe take us to the next level. But I have such an incredible management team right now that I feel that I can pull so much knowledge from all of them. Tim did not have the best experience when he brought on investors with Noon. That was a really difficult thing. And I don't want to have to rehash that again. So I want to be really careful who we curate as investors if we do decide that we need to take some outside investment at some point.
Yeah, they would have to be value added for you and share the vision, like you said. We're almost out of time, unfortunately, but we'd love to have you back with an update and progress, because we didn't mention this, but Kat's been, I think you're featured in People Magazine at the early stages of the Austin and Kat, right? So obviously some great feedback. It's a growth story, and it's not, I think it's reachable for a lot of people. Obviously you starting on at your kitchen table with a skill set, and knowing what you know and knowing what you don't know. But it's a very phenomenal story that you can start a business, you can be an entrepreneur, and you're a proof and point for that. Kat, how is for our listeners, what's the best way to get a hold of you? Is it LinkedIn, or maybe give us the name of the website and email if you want, or your LinkedIn address?
Yeah, LinkedIn, Kat Donatello. Our web address is Austin, like Texas, and Kat, and it's Kat with a K. So it's austinandkat.com. You can direct message us on Instagram, or just shoot us an email at hello@austinandkat.com too.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, we want to both thank you for your time today, and we look forward to the updates.
Thank you very much. It was really enjoyable.
I've been feeling like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond in the shrimp tank.